welcome to the Swift Half, your weekly session of chat from the UK OCR and adventure running scene. Each week, pub landlord Alan and our favourite regular Ian discuss races, runners and anything else that comes to mind. So pull up a pew, pour yourself a drink and join us for the Swift Half.
Greetings everyone. Before we get into the Swift Half, let's have a quick update from Wendy Brothers about the Field Fit Challenge. Everything to raise money for Jack Carpenter, remember? Here's Wendy.
Hello there, it's Wendy with an update for Jack's event on December the 14th down at Field Fit in Ipswich. We've had some discussions and decided that the juniors is from age 10 to 13 and we're asking for a donation of £20 plus for that. Adults 14 plus, donation of £30 plus for an adult ticket, please. Donations to J Crushing Cancer, a fundraiser which is on Instagram for Jack Carpenter. The youngsters 14 plus will have some slight variations to accommodate that. Obviously we don't want them doing adult weights, so Dave has that all sorted. I'm looking forward to hearing from people. If you could make the donation and then just let me know, I can add you to the list of entrants, which I will then give to Dave to have you all ready on the day. And it's a 10 o'clock start for the adults and the juniors to follow on probably around noon. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
You're listening to the 18th most popular podcast for listeners who know you can be both dexterous and sinister.
Hey, my friend, welcome to the Swift Half again. How are you?
I'm great, Alan. How are you doing?
Nervous is one word to put it.
Oh, it's the annual Alan almost gets eaten by cows weekend, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's Escape from Meriden this week. I am absolutely pooping myself. No training in 5 weeks due to injury and COVID and things like that. So I went for a run this week. Only did 8 miles. Felt really good. I got to admit, it felt really, really good. But then got up the next day and the knees were aching and the calves were aching and after 8 miles, so I'm dreading what it's going to be like after quite a few miles of running away from cows.
I've got to say, Alan, I don't know a lot about this race, but I don't think 8 miles is going to cut it.
You've got to do a minimum of 60 to even get a medley, and that's the thing about it. You know, you can do the best you possibly can, but it's 60 in a straight line. So we're talking really like 65, 70 miles before you can even get a medal for even saying you've entered it. So yeah, I've got one medal laying around somewhere. I've actually seen it today. But yeah, I've got to get another one this year. But I'm going to get home this year. The plan is to get home this year. And it's me and Rob this year, no Jamie. So just me and Rob.
Oh, is Jamie okay?
He twisted his ankle like 2 weeks ago, so he was going to do it. He was going to walk it. But in his words, he doesn't want to slow me and Rob down, which is fair play to him because he's going to be walking it. He's going to be walking 2 miles an hour. You know what I mean? He's not going to get far, so he's going to not run it at all. Hopefully, he might act as backup driver if we need him. I might come and spend a little bit of time with us, but we'll wait and see on that on Saturday. But yeah, so follow me, people, if you want to check out his Instagram, check out his I'll put the link on Facebook if you want to follow me, see how I'm doing. And if anyone wants to come along and just run with me for a couple of miles, then they're welcome to. We go through Tamworth, up through Chesterfield, Sheffield, that. So anyone from Meriden, follow a straight line up, and we'll be there.
My question is Rob in charge of directions? Because I believe Libby and Linda are currently nervous and shouting at their radios if he is.
You're probably quite right on that, Ian. He has got GPX on his phone and also on his Garmin. However, I have got my own GPX on my phone and my Garmin. So I won't be following his routes. Once I get to Sheffield, I know where I'm going to go. So at that point, I know I'll be 100% fine. But yeah, it's getting to Sheffield. I know where I'm going to go when I go through Tamworth and that as well. So I am pretty confident.
I do have a problem with this race, and I think it's an unfair race. I know it's meant to be unfair, but it does kind of discriminate against northerners because if you run south, one, it's downhill and it's flat.
Exactly. Going south is much easier. But funnily enough, the people who win are the ones who always go north.
That's bizarre, isn't it? Because you'd think first you're going uphill. If you look at a map, it's
Yeah,
clearly uphill,
clearly.
and there are hills on it.
Yeah, clearly. But I don't know why, but the guy last year who won got to just short of Leeds. The year before was Selby. So, and they're so Selby's like 20 miles further than me. Leeds is about 25 miles further than me. So I think it's great that, people, I just love how it goes in any direction they want. And there's a guy who runs to Wales every year. He's doing it for about 5 or 6 years. And it's exactly, I think it's 100 miles to the pub in his village, and he runs all the way to Wales to the pub in his village. That's got to be some feat, that, because we know wherever you go in Wales, there's hills, not little hills, big hills. So and that's an amazing feat.
I think it is awesome, and it's one of them races which you kind of want to be bigger, but you don't want to be bigger, if that makes sense. Because I think if it's bigger, it would take something away from it. It's definitely something that would have been on Transworld Sport back in the day.
Without a doubt. I spoke to them last week, the organisers last week, and there are 350 people signed up this year, which is exactly the same as last year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before. And they will not allow any more. He's got this deal with Meriden because it starts on the green in Meriden at midnight, and you've got to be quiet. And he's got this deal with Meriden that he can do it, but he can't have no more than 350 runners. As he said to me, he says, I could get 500, 600, maybe 1,000 runners easily to this event. He says, but it's 350 and that's your lot.
Gotta say, the way my brain works, it is difficult for me to reconcile 350 when 365 runners is just there. And it would be so cool thinking of a year's worth of runners spending a day running away from Meriden.
Oh, I might say that to him. I bet he could get an extra 50. That would be absolutely cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if you think about it, because then maybe we could do a calendar of just saying what a runner did every single day.
Oh, a picture of every runner from one year to next. Ian, you're a marketing genius.
I have my moments every so often. Yeah, we're rubbish at sales, but this marketing thing where you come up with ideas, we're not too bad.
No, we're not too bad. So, I've got a great thing about marketing, and we'll do it before we have a drink, right? And before we talk about his drink. So the marketing for Rat Race this week was absolutely brilliant because they released a reel. Now, I don't know if you follow reels on Facebook, but there's a bit of a trend of reels on Facebook where you'll get a woman on it and it'll show her dressed in a nice suit, and then you'll get a quick 1 frame second of where she's dressed in something skimpy, and it's like, can you pause it type of thing. Well, Rat Race took it to a whole different level this last week. So they had runners run along, and then for 1 frame, it flashed up the Dirty Weekend logo in. Took me 35 pauses to actually find it, to actually get it. But I eventually got the pause on it.
It's a good job you've got that much practice with all them reels of the women with a skimpy clothing, isn't it?
I knew you was going to say something like that. No. But amazing, Rat Race, Dirty Weekend's not coming back. However, Dirty Day is coming.
So as I understand it, and we're still waiting for further information about it, or maybe we're not waiting and I've done no research whatsoever, but as I understand it, it's going to be the Dirty Weekend, but without the weekend part. So you're going to have the race, effectively.
We don't know nothing. There's nothing been released yet. All they've said is the thing. It said Dirty Day, and then it gave the dates of May 10th, 2025. So I think it's just going to be that. I think it's what you say, and the people I've talked to and that in the community, they think it's basically going to be that. No weekend festival, no camping. I don't know how well it's going to go if there's no weekend festival, because that's what made it for a lot of people. A lot of people went down Friday and they came from all over the world. Stopped there Friday night in the tents. Um, there was always a world record attempt on the Friday night. I remember how many people can run in underpants one year or underwear and something like that. This show's probably going downhill tonight. But that was one thing, and I can't. There's something. There lots of it on Friday night. Did that few drinks in the bar and that. Saturday was the race. Saturday night was the festival when they had the DJ and everything else. Camped over Saturday night. You went home Sunday. It was a great event.
I've got a couple of thoughts, a couple of questions. For full disclosure, I've never done Dirty Weekend. I've never done it. I seem to have not an issue with Rat Race, but it seems I haven't done a lot of their races. And when I have done their races, I've always felt a little bit ripped off, which makes me less likely to do the next one, if that makes sense. It always feels like there's a fee for this, a fee for that, etc. But anyway, I've never done Dirty Weekend. Is the obstacle course in and of itself, with 200 obstacles or however many, is it a big enough draw to get people there? Or is it going to miss something without that full weekender part of it?
That's a really, really good question. Yeah, I got to admit, that's a good question. For me personally, I think it's going to miss its draw. So I've done Dirty Weekend twice. Not done it lots, I've done it twice. The first year I went, I just did the day, didn't do the camping, and I felt I missed out a little bit. People saw it on social media. I thought, oh gosh, I need to go and do a weekend. So the second time I went to do it, I did a full weekend, and I loved the weekend. I thought it was great. I was lucky enough that I took a caravan down with me rather than a tent. So I took the caravan down with me because you could park your caravan, you got electricity. It was a bit like a glamping weekend in the best thoughts. It was just really, really good. Maybe the bar was probably a little bit expensive, I want to say. I can't remember what you're paying for a drink, but it was a bit expensive. You want to get absolutely drunk. But I loved the weekend, meeting people, having fun. I don't know. I think people will go to do the obstacles. However, when it comes to the obstacles, a lot of them have gone. So a lot of them in situ have now gone. A lot are still there. The Ewok village and things like that is now part of forest facilities. So them are still there, still in situ. However, some of the other ones will have gone and they have to fetch them all in. Will they go big again and do things like, because they think the world's largest cargo net climb, when they did it over the river, you went really high and down the other side. They also did the world's longest monkey bars. If they fetch all them back in, I'm going to say yes, people will go. Everyone loves to try and do a world record. So yeah, the people will go. But I don't think you're going to get as many people as when it was a weekend.
I think that's fair. And I guess I'd add to that it's a 20-mile event, isn't it? I believe. Or
I think a bit, yeah, I think 20 miles, but I think it comes out a little bit longer. It did the two times I did it.
Again, a big draw of obstacle racing is this ability to go and meet people, go and chat, have fun. This is why I do think some of the short course events may be the future, because it gives you all of that there and then. In some ways, I think the early days of High Rocks were very similar, because the actual event for most people takes them, an hour and a half to 2 hours. But then you're in a nice venue, you can go and chat with people, you can socialize, you can watch how they go on. A 20-mile event, I can't see a lot of time socializing without the weekend aspect.
No, neither can I. I want to see the weekend. I do want to see the weekend. But who knows? It might just be the calling it the dirty day. It might just be a day, as opposed to like the Friday night, the Saturday night. So they might just do it Saturday. They might even have a band on Saturday evening. I guess it's just about waiting and finding out.
Absolutely. I think it is just waiting and finding out. So, second question, Alan.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rat Race moved away from obstacle racing, as we know. They finished up Survival of the Fittest a fair while ago now. Dirty Weekend was kind of a thing they were keeping going. You also had Deer Stalker, which was not an obstacle race, but a lot of people within the obstacle racing community did it, and it did have some obstacles at the end. With Dirty Day coming, and also with a lot more one-day events as well, do you think Rat Race are maybe stepping away from this bucket list thing that kind of became their calling card for a little bit, because they were all about trying to get 20 to 30 people doing a once in a lifetime experience as opposed to getting 1,000 people to do a day experience.
That's a good question, that Ian. In my opinion, I don't think they'll move away from the bucket list. But if we just say, for instance, you get 100 people paying £5,000 for a bucket list event. So 100 people paying £5,000. What's that? 500,000? Does that work about right? £500,000. Out of that, you've got to pay for 100 people to travel there, for accommodation, for everything doing. The profit margins, I don't see it being great. I think if it's a £5,000 event, I can maybe see 3,000 of that being taken straight up in terms of just logistical things to get there. And then you've got 200,000, so they're making £200,000 profit. But out of that £200,000 profit, then you've also got to get your team over there. You've got to get your team doing the event. You've got the insurance, you've got everything else. I think there's profit in it. I'll be honest with you and say they wouldn't do it if they weren't. But I don't see there being as much profit as getting 5,000 people to an event, paying over £100. Was Dirty Weekend about £150, I think? Dirty Weekend was, before the add-ons. So I don't know what Dirty Day is going to be. Maybe it might be the same, I don't know. But when you've got hundreds, not just hundreds of people, but you've got maybe, I think about 10,000 people used to go to a Dirty Weekend event. That's a lot of money, 150, that's over £1 million, probably more profit in it. I don't know. I don't see putting bucket list events on unless you're getting 100 people paying £5,000 a go. I don't see there being that much profit in it. And we know for a fact that some of them bucket list events, they haven't been getting 100 people. They've been getting 20 and 30.
It's definitely an interesting conundrum, isn't it? It's one, thankfully, we don't have to solve. But I do wonder if this is a sign of their kind of thinking, let's go back to what we were successful at, but let's try to keep costs down. Because Dirty Weekend, the biggest cost would have been getting the DJ, getting the weekend sorted, whereas putting on the actual event probably didn't cost that much.
No. I think when they did Dirty Weekend as well, they didn't really market it to its full potential. So they marketed it to the runners, which was great, and the runners fans. But if they've also marketed it to a festival element, and just sold tickets for the festival side of things, and they could have got 1,000 more people just to the festival, which could have covered the cost for the evening. So yeah.
Yeah, that's quite true. It would be interesting. This kind of does touch on what we were talking about earlier, doesn't it? That will removing the festival mean that it'll be as big a draw as it once was? I think it'll be incredibly successful in the first year because nostalgia sells. Even if it's only 3 or 4 years, nostalgia sells. Heck, if Mr. Mouse was to put on another tough guy, you can guarantee he would still get 200, 300 people, of which about 50% will be the ones who are gnashing their teeth saying, I'll never do anything he ever puts on again.
Without a doubt, he would, if he put his event back on, if Tough Guy came back, there would be thousands. We were going our droves, because it was probably the hardest event that I can say I've ever done. And so can so many others. It put you mentally, physically to the test. So yeah, if Mr. Mouse and his team put Tough Guy on again, despite the fact that we all got stung, for hundreds of pounds, despite that, we would still throw our money at it.
We absolutely would. So I think year one, it's going to be year of success for Rat Race. Just mincing my words a little bit, the listener. Year two, we'll see, won't we? Because it'll go back to how big a draw it is. And I hope that Rat Race do put some investment into it, and it isn't just a cash grab. I almost said a cat grab then. That may be the world record attempt, how many cats you can grab. But I hope they put some investment in it and you don't have a situation where there's 200 obstacles and 20 of them are carrying a wreck bag.
Completely agreeing. Shall we get back onto our show?
Let's get back onto our show because we have kind of covered the first topic already, Alan, or first two topics, and we were obstacle related. So our long-time listeners are probably wondering what happened in Tesco or how your week's gone. But shall I start with asking what you're drinking?
Yeah, well, tonight, Ian, I'm actually on an alcoholic drink. So I went to my local off license the other day to see if they've got any. I was coming home from work and I thought, oh, I've got a local off license, see if they've got any alcohol free in. And they didn't. But she said to me, we've got some low alcohol drinks in by a brewery called Four Pure, which I like Four Pure lager beers, IPAs and things like that. And they had one called Juiced. Now, this is, and you're gonna like this, it's a passion and lime fruited beer with intense tangy taste. It's absolutely really nice. 2% alcohol. So it's not strong, but it's really fruity. It's like drinking pop, Ian. And if you turn it into a shandy, it is so refreshing. I want to go back and buy them all just to keep them in the fridge for the summer. This is a summer drink, sat there in your garden, sun shining, one of these, lemonade, in a tumbler, boom, you're sorted.
You like Alka Pops?
Yes, very much so, very much so. It's really, really nice. It's very fruity. I like it. I think I had one the other night, and I've got one tonight as well. So I'm going to save them and savor them, shall we say?
Incidentally, Alka Pops was Harley's nickname for you growing up.
Alco Pops, yeah, he probably was his nickname for me if he knew what they were. What are you drinking again?
I am drinking actually Fanta Apple of all things, and it's unusual because I always thought I've had Fanta Apple before, and I haven't. I've had Tango Apple, never Fanta Apple.
I didn't even know they did a Fanta apple. I knew the Fanta, the orange one and the pink one. Those are the two Fantas I knew they did.
I'm a lemon.
Oh, lemon, yes, sorry, lemon as well. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's a tie-in with Beetlejuice, I believe, so it's meant to look like blood.
Oh, right. Okay. So just had Halloween, Beetlejuice. Yeah. Nice.
It is actually, and like I say, I thought I'd had it before. It tastes a little bit sweeter than Tango Apple, so it's definitely not Tango Apple. It's definitely Fanta. It's definitely something else. While we're speaking of drinks, big shout out to Steve, one of our patrons in the pub. He brought some gifts to me in Birmingham, and I was volunteering at the time and never got round to see him to actually pick it up. And he posted them. How nice is that?
No, what did he post for you?
He posted some really cool ciders. Yeah, a nice scrumpy one, and also kind of flavored one as well, a dark type one. So I can't wait to sample them. But I also know there's a risk that the intern may notice them first, and I'll never get a chance to try them. So they're currently hidden.
I like that. I like that. Talking about Steve, can I go on to our first topic of the night because it was sent in by Steve to me?
You mean our third topic of the night? We've actually
Okay.
have been talking about OCR, but carry on.
No. This is not even OCR. This is not even OCR. So this is a New York City Marathon, and it's a guy called Connor Strinkowski. Yeah, no, nothing strange there. Did the marathon, did it topless. Yeah, so nothing new. We have people run marathons topless and whatever. However, so he did it in 2 hours 39, fairly impressive. But you know your bib number, your actual number that you put your staples through and you fasten it to your shirt and things like that. He didn't have a shirt, so guess what he did, Ian?
I'm not sure, but I am a bit worried that you're stapling the bib to your t-shirt. I tend to use safety pins, but each
Well,
to their
safety
own.
pins, sorry, yeah, safety pins, not staple. I've always called them staples, but I know what you mean, safety pins. Well, he put the safety pins through his skin. So he actually pinned the bib to his flesh through his skin and ran a marathon. How crazy is that? 4 barb pins going through your skin and Ian.
I actually don't know how to react to that. I've become a bit queasy, and I apologize to all of our listeners. I thought you were going to tell me that maybe he had put Velcro on it and used the Velcro on a hairy chest, because that could work.
No, pinned it to his chest. Now, what I want to see, yeah, is when we go to Spartan, I want Spartan to bring back race bibs now, yeah, because all these elite runners who run at the front that think they're hard, this is how they need to run. Fasten it to the chest.
No. 100% no. Oh my Gideon. While we're in Steve Corner, by the way, I've not verified this, but I believe Steve is a new world champion.
Steve is a new world champion. You are quite right. Um, Last week we talked about Strava and drawings on Strava, and we said like we'd not seen a UK OCR out there. So as of this week, we now have the largest UK OCR drawn on Strava, which is out there, and it was done by Steve. And I want to give you exact mileage: 2.76 miles. You can actually read the word UK OCR. I'm quite impressed he got nearly 500 foot of elevation in that. But yeah, 2.76 miles. Can anyone out there do it? Can anyone out there beat him?
I'm not sure, but not only that, Alan, he won the World Championship Shropshire Mud Run too. What a big weekend it's been for Steve.
Amazing weekend. I mean, we're talking class. This athlete is top, is right up there, top level now. The Shropshire Mud Run World Championships won by Steve HFD, and he sends you prezzies, and he's a UK OCR world record holder.
It's unbelievable. Well done to Steve. I will say that the Dublin map for Hyrox has come out, Alan, and it looks like they're trying to get all of their competitors to draw out UK OCR because, oh my gosh, it's a little bit complicated. I might need to take a compass.
How good would that be if like Hyrox actually wrote UK HXR? We'd have an HXR in Hyrox, but UK HXR on their like the farmers carry and the lunges and that. If it did UK HXR, that would be cool.
That would be amazing. I'm not sure quite how they do that, and we'll get onto some High Rock stuff later on. But it is one of them maps. If you're going to Dublin, do take a compass and best of luck. Alan, what else is on the docket?
Big well done to Libby Joyce this week for completing her first fell race and getting 9th overall in the females. That's pretty good, Ian. We talk about a junior athlete here who goes to a fell race, and we know the best of the best club runners do fell racing. So to come 9th, I want to take my hat off to her. I think Jason Brunnett ran with her, helped her along on that. But the Roaches down in the middle, so big well done to Libby there.
Just think, if she'd run with Rob, she would have got 25th.
She'd have got 20th. She's got much more mileage than the 15, I think, that it was.
I'm sorry, Rob, if you're listening to this as you're running away from Meriden.
Can I mention a few world records that's happened this week?
Well, we've already covered one. Are you telling me there's been more world records?
More world records, yes. Courtney Olsen set the new 50-mile world record at the Tunnel Hill 50-mile race over in the States. So it's 25 miles out, turn around and come back. You run through a tunnel on the way there. 50 miles, Ian. Yeah. What do you think her time was?
50 miles. Well, obviously, we know people can do it in 24 hours. So I want to say 12 hours.
She actually ran 50 miles, Ian, so, to break the women's world record in 5 hours, 31 minutes and 56 seconds. That's an average of 4.08 minutes per kilometre.
That's only a shade higher than it takes me to do a marathon and probably a lot of other people to do a marathon.
It's absolutely crazy. So when you go to park run, to put this into perspective, you go to park run and you get these young whippersnappers flying past you that are clocking 20-minute park runs. She ran at that pace for the whole 50 miles. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I have to ask, did she have her barcode at the end?
No, that would have been funny. That would have been funny. Talking about world records that's happened, hopefully there's going to be another one broken this weekend coming as well. Okay, so one of our podcast hosts, Jamie Gain, is going for a world record 24-hour, at Down Grange this weekend, and he's going to go for the most distance covered by an athlete with an amputee. So in a 24-hour period. So big shout out to Jamie down there. Anyone who's down there, go check him out. Down Grange this weekend, 24-hour running challenge. See what he does. Good luck to him.
And I was aware of the final world record. Funny that you mentioned park run, Alan, because wasn't there a park run world record as well?
There was a parkrun world record. You are quite right. You were on the ball today, aren't you? You're getting the ones that I'm not.
Yeah, I will say though, my research is terrible. I can't actually remember the time.
So Nick Griggs, who's 19-year-old, clocked a 13-minute 44 second for a 5K, beating the record by 1 second, which was held by it was a good athlete. I'm going to just check who the athlete was. Andy Bouchard did it in Edinburgh in June 2023. So we're talking about Olympian. Andy Bouchard's an Olympian. So yeah, he's gone out and done it. Massive, massive. Well done to him.
I do have a slight issue with this, Alan, and we can discuss this. My problem with parkrun is that every course is different, and although they say they measure it out with the wheel, which I believe they do, but I believe that some courses are not made equal. So I've run the South Manchester one a few times, I believe. I can never get it up to 5K. It always comes in at about 4.9, whatever.
Yeah.
With the world record being broken by a second, do you think he ran faster than Andy in it, or do you reckon he just got lucky that the course was maybe 20 feet shy of what the Edinburgh course is?
I can't answer that. I'm not going to even attempt to answer that. I do get where you're coming from though, because I've run many park runs, and I've clocked 4.9 on my Garmin, I've clocked 5, and I've clocked 5.1. There is a difference to them all. But saying that though, I've been to my local park run, which is Barnsley, and it's 3 laps of the park. And quite often I can get different distances just running that one. I can get bang on 5 or 5.01, 5.02, and I've even gone the other way and gone shy of 5. So, not so Garmin watches are not always perfect, it does need a wheel. They do say they go around with a wheel and they measure them. I'm only skeptical of park runs that have 1 lap. Okay, if you've got or they've got 1 lap, but you actually run past the finish line once is fine. So wherever the finish line is, if the start line was prior to the finish line, you run past the finish line and then you do a lap. I can believe that's exactly 5 kilometers because you can take that start line back further and further until you get 5 kilometers. But the ones that start and finish in exactly the same place and it's 1 lap park run, I do doubt that they're 5K. That's just my opinion, guys. And I know people might shout at me and tell me I'm wrong. There probably are some out there, but to get a park that's exactly bang on 5K, that's some feat.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. And yeah, I'd also accept ones which are perhaps a little bit bigger than 5K for it, and where your finish line is behind the start line. But for it to be precise, you are right. It would be so unbelievable. Of course, you've got that meme part run, which you see where it says the start and the finish. And in reality, you're running to the right and then back to the left to finish. But people often look at it and think, "Oh, that's cool. I can just run that
Yeah.
distance." But yeah, I believe that one's 5K and that. Although sometimes, particularly ones like that, getting the corn in exactly the right place every single time on the turnaround.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. And you've also got to look at corners. So when a marathon is run or measured, it has a white line. Top marathons have a white line down the road, and they'll go to the corner and they'll go 1 meter away from the edge. That's the optimum racing line, 1 meter away from the pavement at the side when they're going around corners. And if they're going from one side of the road to the other, it's a straight line across the road. At parkrun, I'd be interesting because do they actually do that at parkrun? Do they take the optimized line, or do they go just on the inside of it all the way? Because you're doing a circle, you're doing a loop. So in theory, you can just 90% of the time just go on the inside and measure it from there. Do then people run on the outside? You've got people to overtake. It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is, and you are right about the corners because sadly, natural parks aren't made like racing tracks, which the inside track it still has that smooth corners, doesn't it? That's why in a
Yeah.
marathon, the racing line isn't technically the shortest distance per se, because if you were to cut the corners, you possibly would do less than a marathon. but you'd probably be a bit slower because of having to do a hairpin turn.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They take the optimum racing line, just like in Formula One.
We're getting deep in the weeds today, Alan. I like when we have episodes like this. Can I bring up another deep in the weeds conversation?
Go on.
A few weeks ago, there was a little bit of controversy in the Big's backyard space, wasn't there?
There was, yes, a lot of controversy when 3 runners from Belgium decided to quit at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. That was controversial. But the other controversial part was this race. I can't remember its name, and it's perhaps unimportant, but it's bills itself as the last man standing race. And until recently, it wasn't actually a bigs in that it wasn't the right distance. But its gimmick is everyone comes and brings, I want to say, $100, sticks it in a briefcase, and whoever is the last runner takes a briefcase home and gets money doing that.
Yeah.
And that has been allowed to operate for however long because it wasn't actually a proper bigs. And then they've adjusted it so it is a proper bigs. And it's now caused controversy, although it's not a qualification race, but you've got a few people who think that Big's Backyard Ultra should just be for glory and not for prize money. You should be racing it for the sake of racing it. Alan, what say you? Where do you draw the line at where you can have acceptable prize money or where a race should just be for the glory of doing a race like the Olympics?
You're asking me some proper good questions today, and you got your question head on. This is a tough one. So from a commercial point of view, you want to attract runners. Yeah, you want to attract runners. How do you attract runners? Offer them the best race or offer them prize money. We've always said if you're going to put a race on, do something different, you'll attract runners. So if you can offer something different, you're going to attract runners. It's what you offer different. These have gone down the money side of things. Now, I do see some people's view on this. They want to be glory, but at the end of the day, if you're good at something, why shouldn't you make money for it? I don't know. I think they've done nothing wrong, Ian. I know athletes are saying they have, or some athletes are, but I think the race has done nothing wrong, in my opinion. It's put in a Big's backyard. If people want to go for the glory, win it, and then turn around and say, I don't want your money, give it to charity. What's wrong with that?
I can definitely see your point there because who does it harm?
Nobody. This is the whole point. It harms no one whatsoever. Does the race benefit? Yeah, it's got a bit of exposure. Will it make more money? Who knows? Will the athletes who win it benefit? Of course they will. And at the end of the day, if an athlete benefits, then it's got to be a good race.
But could there be an issue, playing devil's advocate here, because I don't think I disagree with you, Alan, but could there be an issue of a quote unquote unfair playing field of these other people who put on Big's events who don't offer prize money, thinking that this will take athletes away from theirs?
Then you know what they need to do, then, don't you, Ian?
Offer prize money, I guess.
Offer prize money. It's going to happen, isn't it? Or do something that's completely different. Not every race has to offer prize money to attract runners. But what's going to happen with that? It's going to attract the best runners. You know what I mean? It's going to attract a more elite type of runner. So you market yours a little bit like, okay, come and join us. We're not offering prize money, which means you've got a better chance of winning and getting the glory. Who knows?
I can't disagree with that. No, that's a good point. You just need to figure out, it's what we talk about a lot, or I talk about a lot, the better than, less than, different to. If you can't put up prize money, find a reason for people to do your race.
Too right. Just take the last race of the UK OCR series, for instance. It didn't have as many of the top athletes that we wanted to go to Tough Mudder, did it? Being realistic when I say that, because a lot of people thought the game was over. Dan had won the league. It was very hard for him to lose the league. I think Eve Russell had won and Dan not turned up. I don't think Dan could have lost. And in the women's, Federica had won the women's. However, the other places were all up for grabs. And we saw some movement. We saw quite a bit of places swapping and changing and that in that last race, because not that it were an easy race, but it were an easier race to get points because there wasn't as big a field. And sometimes you've got to pick and choose your races. We talked about this when we started it, and you remember we went down to Ruled Rampage. So we went to Ruled Rampage, and all of a sudden, we were talking about, oh yeah, Ruled Rampage doesn't normally get our top elite runners going. And Dan Titcombe turned around and he said, I've got to go because otherwise I'm giving someone an easy 100, not an easy 100 points, and I've rephrased that, but I'm giving someone a chance of getting 100 points. That's when we used to do 100 points for the win. I'm giving someone a chance of getting 100 points and taking a win when I can go and I can win it. And that's one of the reasons why he went down. And that, you've got to go to these races. And that's exactly the same with this race. People are going to go to it. Fantastic. But if you've got another race, and you think you can win it, then you're going to go to that. I'm probably going to be off track there, but I'm trying to get my point out.
I think your point's valid. I was just forming an idea in my head, which is it's almost a tale as old as time, isn't it? That there's two ways to be successful and two ways to build your castle. Or sorry, I'll rephrase that completely, listener. There's two ways to have the biggest castle. You either build your castle to be the biggest, or you knock down everyone else's until yours is the biggest. And what you're saying is this race is doing its best to build its castle. These race directors who are upset, they just want to knock down everyone else's castle.
Yes, you're actually the nail on the head there. They're trying to knock his castle down because he's built his castle quite big. That's great.
Right, let's move on then, because we mentioned about the UK OCR series, but there's been some news about the endurance series this week, haven't there?
There has been some news about the endurance series. So nuts, and we all love a bit of nuts. The nuts challenge is now going to be part of the endurance league because they are bringing back the 4 laps on the 1st of March. 4 laps is back at nuts and part of the endurance league. That's the British Obstacle Sports Endurance League. Oh, Ian, this is great news. Winter nuts, 4 laps. If it had been released earlier, much earlier, I would have been going down myself. I've pilgrimaged down to nuts every other year. Weren't going to go because I didn't know they're having 4 laps back. Otherwise, I'd have been down this year. I feel gutted. I feel cheated. Nuts, you need to let me know much more in advance so I don't plan other things. But it's great to see it back. It's great to see it back. And it was in the Endurance League, 1st of March. You need to get themselves down there.
It is a little bit of a legendary race, isn't it? Because if you talk to people from the 2015s, 2016s, even earlier than that, it was one of the original scary races, isn't it? It was a race that you couldn't actually enter unless you'd completed the 1 or 2 lap option before.
Exactly. And that's how big it was back then. You had to have done 1 or 2 laps or before you could attempt 3 or 4. It was amazing. It is amazing down there. The course, the layout, even though it's changed, it's not taken anything away from it. It's added extra elements. I love it. I just love the whole course down at Nuts. It's got so much down there going for it, and I don't think it's attracted so many people, but I don't think it's ever reached its full potential. Because people are scared of it.
It is, again, an interesting conversation to have, isn't it? That you have these events which are perhaps almost that little bit too extreme and are only really valuable to, say, 10% of the obstacle racing community, but that 10% love it.
Definitely. And, if it's a bad winter, 1st of March, it's going to be probably the toughest race that we've ever seen in the UK for the last 2 or 3 years. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Can I plug Farmyard while we're here? Currently only £40. Will be in Endurance League. We talked about picking your races, by the way. £40 at the minute. Go to overloadrun.co.uk.
Perfect. Nice little plug there, Alan. While we're talking about endurance, quite a few of our UK-based athletes went out and caught up with some of our American listeners and did WTM, didn't they?
Oh, they did, Ian, didn't they? And how proud are we of everyone that went out there and completed and took part, whether they actually ran or they were in the pits. And we gave some shout outs last week, but I watched a bit of the live stream. I got too much FOMO. I had to switch it off, Ian. I gotta admit, I had to switch it off. Too much FOMO. I can't wait for next year coming to the UK.
It's gonna be a massive party that particular weekend, isn't it, Alan? And I don't think we should talk too much about WTM because I've got a sneaky feeling you'll probably deal with it in depth by getting a few of the athletes on, and they can talk about it far better than you and me can. But yeah, I got FOMO. I was tempted to sign up. I've not, but I was tempted to sign up. It looked immense. It's interesting, isn't it, that every WTM seems to have its own little story. Like Atlanta was when it was really, really cold that time. When I went in Floribama, I've got to say it's like probably the dust and the wind and everything became kind of like the story. And it got incredibly cold for such a warm place. It had the extremes. This one sounded like it was the warm one.
Yeah. I, from what I can see, it looked sunny. It looked beautiful. I saw people running in the night time that weren't in full wetsuit gear, which, love it. It opened you up for big distances. Um, I mean, the winner, Michael shot 115 miles. Amazing effort, that, isn't it?
So close to that 125, wasn't he? So close.
Oh,
But I'm not sure if that'll ever be done. And again, I'm sure when you do your podcast, you'll shout out all the various achievements by Brits. We even had a Brit do 100 miles. I think that's the first.
I think we just need to give a quick shout out to like the top men and the top women. Quick shout out to Grant Thompson for getting 100 miles, and then I think we had Gary Andrews on 80, Michael Walker on 80, and Charlie Bower 75 got his 75-mile bib. I know he was trying for it, he's going for it out there. So big shout out to him. But you're quite right. Stephen Boswell as well got 75. So did Chris Garcia, Peter Willits, Paul Marriott. I'm going to shout out the 75s, Ian. Daniel Stevens, Neil Raymond, Christopher James. Yeah, I shout the 75s out because that's a good milestone, I think. Do you want to know some of the women's?
Yeah, I was going to say because I think Jackie did excellent. Jackie's been having a really good year. We talked about her on the podcast previously, not necessarily in the UK OCR series, but in terms of Tough Mudders, she's been doing amazing, hasn't she?
Absolutely fantastic. 75 miles self, Jackie Naylor. Absolutely phenomenal. I'll give a shout out to some of the females out there. Ruth Battersea on 65, Victoria Reynolds on 55. We'll go down to the 50s, Ian. Maxine Johnson on 50, Joanne Wilson on 50. Yeah, I'm going to give out shouts, like saying I am got a podcast coming where we're talking about WTN and that, and we'll give a shout out to them all on that. So I'm not going to give it on here, but absolutely amazing effort. And we got at the brunch here, and there was a few awards going out to the Brits as well there.
There was. I'm going to give you the honour of announcing these ones, Alan, because I know you're proud of both these individuals.
Absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to turn around and I'll say it right now. I actually voted for both of them. So on it when it came out, these are two people I put in as well as other people. But the Grit Award went to B Wood, fantastic B. Woo! Climb out. And Andy Ryan, MVP. Woo! Well done, the guys.
So well to all of them. I heard rumblings, but I'm not sure if it's true. I heard rumblings that we may not get community awards next year. I hope that Tough Mudder do instate them again because it is something that's cool. Because unfortunately, Alan, we can't all get age group podiums. I know you can, but I know I definitely couldn't. But I may have an outside shot at getting an award for, I don't know, falling down a hole and getting gored by a bull or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably what you would win in. But yeah, they've got to have the community awards. They've set a standard at WTN. Tough Mudder's set a standard. The brief, the race, the brunch. It's all there. The awards. It's got to be all there. They've got to bring the whole package to the UK. They can't scrimp on it at all.
No, I cannot agree with you more. I'm doing a lot of agreeing with you tonight, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But they need to bring it all over. I can't wait to see how it goes. And there's been some excitement already from the Americans because some of them are kind of trying to figure out how to buy tents over here. I suggested decathlon and go outdoors probably, but I warned them you need to click and collect because in June it's festival season, which means a lot of people are going to be looking for particularly the cheaper tents that WTM people kind of want because you're not taking it back home with you to America. You want it to last 24 hours and then you're recycling it.
Without a doubt. Yeah, just I'm taking my gazebo, so I'm happy to. If two Americans want to jump in with me, I can get 3, 4 people in mine. It'd be great, Ian, if we actually had quite a lot of us and we could put all those gazebos together and had one big, not like a nanny's tent. I don't want to call it a nanny's tent, but one big long gazebo that was maybe say 10 of them together, where we could have a picture that could be shared by people, and everyone came in and chatted and stuff like that. I have seen it at ETM once when there's about 5 joined together. It'd be great for Worlds if we had a big one.
Yeah, we've done it in solo mothers in the past, but yeah, maybe we kind of adopt that and do it as a UK OCR people who want to hang out together tent.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure we can sort them out nearer the time.
We absolutely can. Have we got anything else left on WTM or should we move on?
There's nothing left on WTM, but I have got something I'm going to upset you with.
Go on. What's gone on?
So yeah, we've agreed a lot of things tonight, but last week you wanted to take over the world. Yeah, you wanted to start the World Duathlon Organization, where we was going to have horses. We're going to be nice to horses, and we're going to have horses out riding it, and we were going to do running, and we were going to, and that was us. We were taking it all away from UIPM and GB Pentathlon, and we were going to start our own thing. Well, I've got news for you, Ian. We are not.
Okay, I'm concerned as to why not, but carry on.
Because Michelle Carney has told me that in horses, they need different shoes. Okay? So it's not one pair of shoes. There is several different types of shoes that you can put on a horse. Now, you know what I'm like with shoes. Yeah? I have got more shoes than anyone in my garage. I'm not now going to go and buy another 50 pair of shoes for my horse. So no, because I don't even know what shoes I want to wear. Can you imagine how discombobulated I'm going to have when someone says we're going to go and do nuts in, I know what I'm going to wear. I'm going to wear my VJX challenge. But what's my horse going to wear? I'm going to be all discombobulated in. So no, we can't have this. It's be too much choices for me to do. So you're taking over the world is now, no, it's null and void, Ian. I'm sorry.
Don't quite want to give up on this dream yet, so I'm going to ask Michelle, what shoe would a horse need to do monkey bars?
And would it wear gloves?
I wonder what shoe a horse would need to do monkey bars. Yeah.
What about, though, when it comes to monkey bars, it's not the shoes. You need the good stirrups, don't you? Because the actual athlete has to do the monkey bars, and then the horse could just like dangle down below him.
That's quite true, yeah. Speaking of stuff like that, and we're going way, way on a tangent, have you ever watched an American rodeo which has one of them fancy riders who can basically do gymnastics on a horse?
I have seen things like that. I mean, they're crazy, aren't they?
They are really, really crazy. And maybe that's what we add to it to make it harder. That's like a band taker type obstacle that you have to do the monkey bars and then land on your horse and, I don't know, do a little pirouette and then hop over a wall, something like that.
Do you watch Yellowstone?
I don't. Is it worth getting into?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But they do horses there, and they're a bit of rodeoing in that. But one of the things they do, they race the horse as fast as they can and then get it to stop. But instead of just stopping dead, they make it slide. So I'm thinking, if we got horses in and we put them Adidas Gazelles on, like everyone used to wear when we first started doing OCR, they could slide for ages in them, couldn't they?
Oh, they really could, couldn't they? Could you imagine?
Well, I saw people at Yorkshire Tough Mudder when I first did that in Gazelles, sliding out of Mud Mile and going down the hill for nearly half a mile, just like trying to keep their balance. So, yes, I think it would be great fun.
I think we're back on, Alan. I think I've convinced you.
You have convinced me. I think we're back on now here.
Right, Michelle, you can be the president of this association. It pays about the same as the Who's Hot get paid.
Yeah, exactly. Before we finish the show, High Rocks this weekend. There was some High Rocks going off this weekend, wasn't there?
There was. Me and the intern did High Rocks Manchester. I actually meant to bring this up when you were talking about the race line, in that we beat our Birmingham time, even though I think we were slightly slower on the runs to some degree because I banged my knee halfway through. Full details, go and listen to Fitness Racing podcast. But I banged my knee, and when we'd finished, our runs, even though I had to walk a little bit to, get the movement back in, our runs were still faster. And I think that's because it was a 3 lap course. And consequently, we were closer to the race line, even if we were moving slower than we were in Birmingham, which was a 2 lap course. And the race line we were further away from. So we covered less distance. We still covered the 8.7, but we covered probably 9.5 in Birmingham.
I get that, yeah. So you're outside the race line where now you're inside it. Yeah, I get that. I get that. And that's what we were talking about
Yes,
earlier, wasn't it?
it was exactly what we were talking about. So I know for some people, Manchester's a slow course, but for those of you who are a little bit slower and you're always in the outside lane, it's a great course because there's only so much you can move outside. Other than that, I don't talk about the race too much on UK HXR, what I personally did with the intern. But yeah, we enjoyed it. I think every station, with the exception of burpees, we either beat or matched our time from Birmingham, which was only a couple of weeks thereafter. So yeah, I had a great time. I only think, Alan, I think I had two no reps on the wall balls.
Oh wow. That's massive improvement.
It really is. And again, they were because I missed the target. Uh, yeah. I'm one of them people, I just can't automate what I do when it comes to wall balls. Every so often, and it's usually about the seventh or eighth rep, it just goes in somewhere. I was never any good at archery or anything like that. So yeah, that's my excuse. The lunges were fun. I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah, you've lost the plot now, Ian.
Yeah, the lunges were fun, but the thing I did want to talk to you about is it was Remembrance Sunday.
Yes.
And I don't think you actually know what High Rocks did unless you listened to the show as you're editing, but I don't think you did because I gave you a really nice editing thing of just cutting out the silences.
You gave me literally a 20-minute edit, less than a 20-minute edit, I want to say and say. So thank you very much for that. So no, I didn't listen to it all. I listened to certain clips to make sure the noise level was right. So what happened for Members Sunday?
Well, what do you think should happen given that tradition is to have a moment of reflection, 2 minutes of reflection? If you were High Rocks and you couldn't push the event to past 11 to start, what would you do?
I would turn around and say to everyone, when I blow this whistle, you all stop doing exactly what you're doing. The whole room stands still. We have 2 minutes silence and we'll knock 2 minutes every time at the end. That is what I would suggest doing.
I think that's a fair idea. And honestly, I probably would have done the same. But I was thinking from High Rocks' point of view, how much controversy would there be caused by those people on track who got a 2 minute rest period if they then got on the podium?
Too right, yeah, would be a massive, massive thing.
So what they actually did do is they went for 2 minutes of silence and left it in the athlete's hand to decide what they wanted to do. All of the staff completely silent, all music silent, all the spectator silent. But if you were an athlete, you could carry on. So you could keep running, you could keep doing whatever you needed to do. And the wall balls, I guess they would still count and they would still whisper them. And I was skeptical, but it worked incredibly well, Alan. It was surreal, incredibly emotional, and honestly, I don't think it could ever be replicated.
That must have been amazing. That is that on your live feed? Have we got that on your live feed on IG?
We sadly haven't because me and the intern were running during it. We were on a
Oh,
running lap, and I will admit I was conflicted. I was conflicted as to what to do. I was tempted to stand still for 2 minutes because it didn't really matter. For me, time's irrelevant. But we just finished the rower, if I remember, if I've got my timings right. Yeah, because we were just about to go onto the kettlebell carry. I was worried that if I stopped, I wouldn't be able to carry on, if that makes sense, because I would have seized up. So we just slowed down to the extent that as we entered the rock zone, it was coming to an end. And I will say there's lots of things that the UK doesn't do great. And one thing we do great is talking bad about ourselves. We are world record holders at talking bad about what the UK does. But we do moments like this perfect. And when moments like this end, we're even better because the cheer and the clapping as that happened was out of this world, unreal, Alan. And full credit to High Rocks. I've told this story a few times. It would have been so easy for them to go business as usual at 11:02, correct?
Yeah, too right. Yeah.
Instead, the DJ and the other team built it back in. So almost like coming out of a meditation, they built you back in. So they played a really nice track initially, and then they started playing some kind of love songs, some nice, not
Oh,
romantic music, but they played Jason Mraz, "I'm Yours," that do song, and it was just really good.
I like it, Ian. To me, that is probably better than my idea. I'm going to turn around and say because the athletes weren't penalised in any way, shape, or form, and it's down to them. I'm glad they did it. Like I said, I'm glad they did it, and I think that's a great way of doing it. I think that's an absolutely top way of respecting and showing our respect to the memory of our ancestors.
Absolutely. And what was a bit humorous about the whole thing, though, Alan, is I published it on our Instagram that this was happening. So I put it as a story. Actually, I think I put it as a post because stories sometimes get lost and are not looked at. So I put it as a post. Oddly, that post got the most likes of anything that weekend, but
Oh,
by the by, it was literally just a printout of what High Rocks had put up. But anyway, I got a lot of messages from Germans, I think I had a couple of maybe Italians and a few Americans, wondering what on earth was going on because I hadn't realized that Remembrance Sunday is a UK thing.
mhm.
It's not a whole world thing.
It's not a UK. It's a British thing. It's not celebrating in all the countries. So I think in Ireland they don't celebrate it either. I think Northern Ireland do, but not in Ireland. I do believe Scotland do, and Wales. I'm not 100% certain though, but I know Ireland don't do it. But yeah, you're quite right. It's not nowhere else in the world is it celebrated.
No, and it was just weird to me. Like they do celebrate Armistice Day, but yeah, the whole thing. And I was speaking to Matt afterwards, Matt B. Davis, who was in Dutia, and he was actually really curious. He was like, "So if I was over there on Remembrance Sunday, if I'd gone into a Costa and 11 o'clock happened, would they serve me?" And it was like, "No, probably not. They'd be in silence. They would have told you beforehand, and you'd all be there in a period of reflection." And it was one of them realizations that yes, a lot of bad things happen in the UK, but we do a lot of things good. And I think honoring people who have given their lives so that me and you can spend an hour during the week talking about some inane babble sometimes. It's the kind of thing we should honor. And I'm so proud of everyone at High Rocks. I'm so proud of everyone who paid their respect this weekend.
Yeah, me too, Ian. Well done. Absolutely fantastic, Irox.
No,
That
well
that's
done.
leaves that's leave on a good point, but I want to know the results. Can we go to? Have you put the results on fitness racing? Can we go top results on fitness racing?
You know what? Yeah, let's go. Let's go to results. Let's give them a shout out because you know what I keep realizing when we do the review show, we never actually give out results, do we?
No, that's what I'm saying. So let's have a few results from it, Ian, because we've got a lot of people from High that actually listen to us now.
We do. So in the men's pro, Eugenio Bianchi from Italy won. He narrowly beat out John Carlisle, Jamie Pratt, Turka Elishi, and Mark Dean. That was the position second to fifth. That race, Alan, is on our Instagram, and it was a fabulous race. There's only, if you go and check the standings there. There's only a couple of minutes between first and fifth, and it was even closer in places at the race. So I know you'll
Wow.
probably rip it off and put it on YouTube. So when it is on YouTube, listener, go and watch it. You'll love it. In the women's pro, which was also streamed live, not as close as the men's. Dr. Alice Schurer from Austria, she won it 106.01. The nearest challenger then was Lian Shi in 01.08.27. Then had Catherine Brownlee in third, Rachel Moody in fourth, and Rachel Greenhall in fifth. But massive shout out to Lian Sheehy. This is only her second ever race. In her first ever race in Birmingham, she came third overall. This time she came second overall. So a pattern is forming. If William Hill will take bets on Hyrox races, come London, if she's competing, she might be worth an each way bet.
I like that, Ian. I like that. Do you think, I'm going to track for a second, do you think Hyrox now, when it's got in the gyms, it's going to attract better athletes to the events?
Yes, I think we'll see better athletes. I think we'll see different athletes. And what I'm excited by is seeing different ways to do things. Because I do think that athletes are going to find them kind of microseconds, which make all the difference. Like silly things like on the skier, learning that if you just go that little bit harder, you get 5 extra seconds.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. We talked, I think, early days when we talked about Hyrox and that. I can't remember what we spoke about, but someone said on the ski erg, putting 5 fast pulls in, 5 fast short pulls gets the wheel turning, and then you can build the motion. Same as on the row, getting several. And I don't know if they're doing that, but it was those were the minute seconds back then. I'm going to assume now that going forward, you're going to get even further minute seconds.
You can imagine it's all going to be about those microseconds, particularly when it comes to records and that kind of thing. So I can't wait to see the sport develop. It has an excellent opportunity to go on and perhaps get a lot of eyeballs because it is a very camera friendly show. Hey, Alan, we got about 1,000 people on every single stream. They didn't watch it for the whole thing. Each stream probably topped out around about, I think the men's topped out at 250 watching it simultaneously. But when you closed it down, it showed how many people had checked it out. You had 1,000 people watching it at various points. And that's a one man and his gimbal production.
Yeah. I think you get people actually in the event village watching it as well, just to see what's happening. I remember when we did Farmyard Jam and James ran round, everyone in the event village was still watching it on their phones because we were streaming at Limewood IG then. And I think you'll get that at Hyrox.
We do, because a few people were waving at me, showing me their phones.
Yeah. There you go.
I will say one thing which we weren't expecting during the streams, Alan, is people buy us coffees. Well, more accurately, they buy us beers, don't they?
Oh, Ian, absolutely phenomenal. People saying thank you to you, especially. Every one of the messages that comes out is saying, Ian, fantastic, thank you very much. Ian, fantastic, thank you very much. Can we get a shout out to the people who bought us beers?
Of course we can. But before we do you think it's kind of odd that Hyrox people thus far, they're all about buying the beers, whereas OCR athletes are mostly about Patreon? I know we do have some Hyrox athletes within the Patreons, but it's weird how it's like that because a lot of times when they buy those beers, it would probably get them a year's worth of membership on a Patreon.
Yeah, it would. Several of the people on there were getting nearly a year out of the Patreon. So a big thank you. Do you want to give them a shout out? Have you got a list or do you want me to do it?
I'll let you give it. You tend to have a most accurate list, and I'd probably mess up some names.
Okay, thank you. So we had Christina Grant, Carly Wayne, Peter Kelly, Keithy BD. Keithy BD is. I don't know what his full name is, but I've got Keithy BD and Chris Ward. So big thank you out to those guys who bought us beers this week. It was much appreciated.
It really was appreciated, and let you in that Keithy BD was one of the athletes who I was following around for the second stream. We did something a little bit different. We followed a couple of athletes around who were trying to qualify for world champs. So it was actually a stream just about their race. And we've never done that before. It's always been a pro race. And I enjoyed that. It allowed me to be a little bit more silly in terms of the commentary. It was like a one-man version of a Swift half.
Oh, I like it, Ian. I like that. Following a particular group round doing, we should do that for an OCR.
Oh, wow, we absolutely should. Like Solo Mudders or someone like that going around Tough Mudder.
Whatever we do, we will live stream. We need to plan that with Will and do a live stream following a group of solo mudders and people can join them around Tough Mudder where we film it all.
What a great idea. Maybe we just do it for like a 5K because, I think I think an hour is about
Yeah,
the furthest you can really go with a live stream. After that, people start tuning out. But I think a nice, quick, short 5K, even if it's not a Tough Mudder, I think that could be a lot of fun, Alan.
I think so too. That's our plan for 2025, Ian.
There we go. Have we got anything left on the news, or should we wrap this up?
I think the 6 pages of news that we had, we've completed them all, Ian.
Perfect. Clean slate for next week then. And on that, listener, thank you everyone as always. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
And listeners, thank you for listening. It is a goodbye from me. I will just pre-warn you, there may not be a podcast on Monday because I am doing EFM. So just let you know, we have never missed one, but this could be a first. I will let you know near the time. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and keep on running. We'll speak to you all soon. Bye.